Welcome to More Than A Paycheck, the podcast for high achievers who feel trapped in their job but know something has to change. If your bad manager and toxic work environment have you stressed and working crazy hours, and you want an easier solution than finding a new job, you're in the right place. Let's do this. All right, part 2 of our 4-part Burnout series. Go listen to the previous episode if you haven't. That is where we review the 5 core basics that I would encourage you to start with if you're feeling burnt out. Today, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into one of the concepts we talked about in that episode around the stress cycle. So remember, burnout happens when we're not able to deal with the stress that we're feeling. But it's really important to keep in mind the difference between stress and stressors. Okay? Stressors are things that can cause you to feel stress. They're things outside of you. Stressors are what other people say, deadlines, canceled flights, goals that can't be met, money, family expectations. Okay, stressors are all the things happening around us. We have thousands of stressors going on all the time. Things in your life around you are going to keep happening. If you don't have the ability to deal with the stress that you feel as that happens, you will get burned out because that stress just builds and builds and builds and gets more and more and more until you're not able to function and you kind of shut down. Now, most of us know things happen. Life is stressful. It's not all stressful and doom and gloom, but there's a lot of stressors that happen around us. Some people's solution is they go to extremes and they just don't leave the house. Right? They're trying to control those things from happening outside of them so they don't have to feel stress. What this is showing me is they don't have the tools and ability yet to know how do you deal with the stress. So their favorite tactic is just avoid and don't do it, right? Don't go on the first date and have to have a terrible experience. Don't apply for the job and get rejected. Don't ask for the promotion and have it not go through. Don't engage with certain people because it's just too hard to deal with. Now, I'm not saying just go all in and put all the stressors in your life. In fact, I kind of think it's the opposite. But some people, again, as they're trying to deal with these stressors, we go to extremes and we just completely shut ourselves down and avoid it at all costs. More commonly, what most of us do is we try to double down on control. I consider myself a control enthusiast. I love control. As we're trying to get more control, this is usually those of us that love rules. We obsess on knowing why. These are the kind of people that love a spreadsheet and organize everything. I recently went on a trip and I was kind of laughing because different people have different travel styles, right? Some people literally have their itinerary mapped out minute by minute. They have everything printed, all the documents are ready, and that's not a bad thing. Others just show up and kind of fly by the seat of their pants. That's not a bad thing either. Depends on what works best for you. But if your only tool is to control the things outside of you that you can't control, it can feel really frustrating and hard because ultimately you cannot control what other people say. You cannot control flights. You cannot control certain health outcomes. Okay? You can't control if someone wants to go on a second date with you or not. So stressors are the things that are happening outside of you. Stress is the physiological thing that happens in your body. It's fight, flight, or freeze. It's a stomach ache. It's tension. It's a headache. It's a short temper. It's on edge. It's exhaustion, and yet you can't sleep. It's your head spinning. This is stress. My good news is you have way more options to control the stress, right? We can't make people say things. We can't make leaders change the goal when they just let go half the team. We can't stop someone from putting an employee on a PIP. We can't make your manager show up to a one-on-one. We can't demand a promotion. But you can close the stress cycle, deal with that stress you're feeling so that you don't get burned out. So it's called the stress cycle because we want it to be a complete cycle. If you're not completing the cycle, that's where burnout happens. It's starting and we just keep adding and adding and adding and none of them are closing. So it's like right? You use the analogy of when we don't have enough time, we're juggling too many balls. It's like someone is just throwing more and more balls at you and you have to hold them and you can't. You're going to eventually drop them all and it's going to be a big mess. So a cycle has a beginning, middle, and an end. In the stress cycle, the beginning, this is where there's like a perceived threat. The middle is where we do something. And the end is where your body receives a signal that you're safe, you're good. Most of us, we're really good at the beginning part of the stress cycle. We're good at this. We're good at knowing like, I'm just so stressed. I don't have enough time. I'm so worried about how this is all going to turn out. I just feel sick. I'm so tense. I have this headache. I can't sleep. We are good at this. And a lot of us get stuck here. The beginning of the stress cycle is we perceive the stress. We perceive the threat. The middle is where we want to focus and do a little bit of work. This is where you need to go and do something. Keep in mind, you still don't feel better, but we're going to go do something. We still don't feel great. We still don't feel excited. We still don't feel safe, but we're going to go and do something. So we've perceived the threat. We acknowledge, I'm not okay. I'm feeling stressed. We're going to go and do something. We're going to ask for details on why we're not getting promoted. We're going to update our resume and start networking if we're worried we're going to get laid off. We're going to email our manager things we want to talk about in our one-on-one, hoping that they come. We're going to tell leaders what the issues are to reaching their goals and come up with some possible solutions, even though they're not going to like the solutions because they're not going to fund what needs to happen. We're going to breathe and relax. We're going to cry and show up and keep trying. We're going to do something. Remember, our feelings are tunnels. If you're doing something, we're not going to get stuck in the middle. We're whittling our way through the tunnel. If you don't do something, you're going to get stuck and lose that momentum, and you can't go backwards, and going forward is even harder. You got to go do something. It's dark and it's scary in the middle of the tunnel, and it's not fun. It's okay. We're not waiting to feel better to go do something. We got to go do it, and then we're going to get some relief. The more you stay stuck, the more you just stay in that awareness and feeling the stress and pressure and not doing something, the harder it is to get going, because your brain wants to stay where you are. Your brain has a cognitive bias where it would rather prove itself right than feel better. Your brain doesn't want to try new things. It wants to wait until it feels good to do something. It wants to believe its own excuse. And your body would rather feel bad if that is your normal habit and stress is your everyday norm and overwhelm and feeling like you don't have enough time. If that's your baseline normal feeling, your body wants to stay there. Why it's not great, it knows what to expect. So feeling that and doing something can feel even harder than it really is. It's okay, but we're going to go do something. We want to close the stress cycle. So you got to be aware of the stress, and then you got to go do something and keep doing it until you figure something out. Focus on action. Focus on doing way more than you're focusing on feeling better, and then doing something. Stressors, they're not going to end. So don't wait for them to end. Let them come and learn how do you do something and take care of the stress you're feeling. So again, this is a complete cycle. You want to start by being aware at the beginning of the perceived threat. The middle is you're going to go do something. And the end is when your body knows you're okay. People always ask, how do I know I've closed the stress cycle? And I'm like, you will know by checking in with how do you feel. This is why, like, after a really good cry, you feel better. You felt the stress. You did something. You went and cried. You went and talked about it. You journaled about it. You processed it. And now your body feels relaxed. It feels better. That's closing the stress cycle. Physiologically, when you're doing something, that's also helping you break down the stress chemicals in your body. So your nervous system and your muscles and your digestion, they all relax and you start to feel better. We're also not great at this part because we don't always notice when we feel better. We often just move to the very next stressor. So it's important that you take a moment and you acknowledge, okay, I feel a little better. Just take the 2 seconds. Your body will close out that stress cycle. So again, as these balls are coming at you, now instead of holding the balls and adding them to your pile of overwhelm, they're coming, we're doing something, and we're hitting them back, and they go back out, and we're okay. The more you become aware when you feel better after you've closed that cycle, the easier it's going to be to go and do something when you feel stuck and out of options. You're going to experience dozens, if not hundreds of stressors a day. This stress cycle, it's not a one and done thing. Homework for life, hundreds, if not thousands of times a day. Do this consistently. This is why focusing on those 5 basics we talked about last time, it's so important because it's going to help you have the awareness that something's off. It's going to help you have the energy and support you need to go through the stress cycle and help you know how do you acknowledge when it's over. When you know how to close the stress cycle, now it's so much easier to go with the flow and figure things out, to be stressed and be okay. Yeah, we still want to prepare and control things and reduce our stressors as much as we can. But now we're not trying to have control because we're afraid to feel stress. We know how to do it. We know how to do something and how to feel better and to just keep showing up and trying and being the kind of person we want to be. All right, y'all, make sure you subscribe. In the next episode, we're going to talk about some of my favorite hacks to reduce stressors. But in order to do that, you have to be willing to feel stress along the way. So it's important that you practice learning how do you close this stress cycle. If you want some help, sign up, come find me. I'm happy to help. But remember, go do something. Don't wait till you feel better. Go start taking action and acknowledge when you feel better. All right, y'all, you got this. We'll talk soon. Hey, you didn't schedule a coffee chat yet. Remember, that's the next step. There's so much more I can help you with. You're going to leave this coffee chat knowing a few things you can try right now, depending on your specific situation. This is not a sales call. My goal is simply to help however I can. If I do think coaching can help, I can tell you about it, but I'm currently on a wait list for new clients. Click the link in the show notes or go to lindsaylymancoaching.com/chat to get on my calendar. I only offer a few coffee chats a week and it's first come, first serve, so don't wait. Chat with you soon.